So first off, what is a furry convention? Well, a furry convention is a gathering of members of the furry fandom to one spot. It's quite often that you will hear furries attend conventions as well as furry meetups, as well as those whom one day want to do so, where they can participate in various activities such as art shows, panel discussions, costume contents, socializing with others who share their interests, and additionally, furries may also attend smaller local meetups, picnics, or simply just gatherings organized by local furry groups or online communities. These events provide opportunities for furries to connect with others whom share the same passion as they do, which is anthropomorphic animal characters and related artwork as well as media. Some are even willing to sell their incredible works of arts in the dealer's den in furry conventions. The dealer's den space is most typically booked before the start of a convention by artists. Dealers then may take commissions, but most of them are present to sell work created before the convention in the spot. Most conventions will also have an artist alley alongside the dealers den. The artist alley is either cheaper or sometimes completely free to those wishing to sell. Another thing is an internet room. In the internet room in a furry convention, there are multiple computers networked together, and obviously they have an internet connection where either they can play online games together or just, do stuff. Now, there is also the game room. Again, it's basically the same as the internet room, but for video games. The headless lounge. The headless lounge is actually pretty important if you do attend a furry convention with a fursuit, and you should memorize where it is. The headless lounge, also known as a fursuit lounge, is a room set aside for fursuiters and their fursuit handlers at a convention. It's where they can go and temporarily take off their fursuit to just relax and, rehydrate, cool off, and once they're done cooling off or rehydrating, they can put their fursuits back on and keep going. There is also the party floor, which, well, as the name says, it's just a party area. Usually people go there to dance or just vibe to some good music. And then you have the zoo. The zoo is essentially like the lunch tables at school. The furries go there and, they just eat, drink, rest, draw, chat, and generally decompress in a nutshell. Now, obviously, furry conventions are super fun, and there are a lot of things you can do. However, for those of you who don't like large crowds being in one spot, then a furry convention may be too much for you, and instead, you might want to look for a furry meetup. Meetups have their own ups and downs as well, which we are going to cover in this video. Now, some of these ups and downs will apply to non-furry conventions as well. So even if you're not a furry, but you do want to visit a convention one day, it's still going to be pretty helpful for you. At least I think it will. Now, I've already talked about the history of furry conventions and furries in general in a different video. As such, I'm not going to talk about them in this video. As for reasons why someone would want to go to a furry convention, well, it's pretty obvious and self-explanatory. And I've also already made a video about that, so we'll just go ahead and skip that part as well. Now, something that will definitely be helpful and you should do before you visit a furry convention or furry meetup is watching videos about them to get an idea of how a furry convention slash fur meet can go. Another great benefit of going to a fur meet or furry convention is it makes it easier to find furry friends and groups. Now, in fairness, you can do this in the internet as well, but obviously, being in front of the person that you want to be friends with is better than talking through the monitor to the person that you want to be friends with. And in general, have a fun time indulging in furry things, spending a nice time with the community. When it comes to finding a con or meetup, I would recommend this website right here, which is Wikifur. Specifically this part, list of in-person furry conventions by attendance. And over here you can see all of the furry conventions. You have in the USA, you have one in Sweden, in Canada, Germany, China. Oh, China. I'm surprised. I didn't know China. I knew that Chinese furries were a thing, but I didn't know China had like furry conventions. Huh, that's interesting. Of course, the UK confuzzled. USA, Taiwan, Mexico, Canada, Japan, Philippines, Canada, Australia. You can go ahead and see all of them. Malaysia, Argentina, Russia. Wait, Russia has? Huh. As you can see, there are a bunch of them here. However, just looking at these obviously is not enough. Which brings me to my other point. When it comes to finding a con or meetup, you will also need to find their social media and follow it. As another example, for example, this is the Twitter of Confuzzled. Now, Confuzzled does have a non-Twitter social medias as well. They do have social medias that aren't Twitter as well. However, because it's Twitter, it's a bit easy to find. Oh, for example, 10 hours ago, want to take part in this shiny event this year? Sign up now. Basically, in their social medias, before everything starts, they will advertise what's going on and what is available. And this is how you can go ahead and start planning if you can go to a furry convention or if you're gonna need to wait a few more weeks or maybe a few more months before going there. You will also need to find their social media and follow it, as well as make sure to check and memorize the date. Now, unfortunately, for some of you, you may end up having to travel to attend these, and it can become quite expensive depending on where you are traveling. If it becomes so expensive that it's just not worth it, then don't worry, because virtual conventions are a thing thanks to VRChat. And although they obviously aren't as good as a non-virtual furry convention, they can still give you that little appetizer before making enough money to actually go to one. Basically, temporarily satiating that hunger, essentially. Another big thing to consider before signing on to a con is size. Again, if you don't like large crowds and have social anxiety, the popular cons are probably going to be way too overwhelming for you. Thus, it may be better for you to start with either a smaller con or a fur meetup, a fur gathering, and slowly start to make your way to bigger ones and see if you're still comfortable, if you're still uncomfortable with them, or if you started to get comfortable with them. Now let's get to how to register to a fur convention. The most common way is also what I would recommend, signing up on a website, taking a print of your registration as proof and waiting for the date. Most cons will advertise what date they will be opening registration, which is why it's a good idea to follow their social media pages. And if you take too long for registration, spots can go very quickly, which is why once you see the registration is open, definitely, if you want to, definitely just go ahead and do it. You also get the option to book a hotel room. However, if you happen to already be staying or even just happen to be lucky enough to be living close by, then obviously this part isn't going to be necessary for you. If you don't, Well, this is also why I would recommend, if you will come. Now, if possible, bringing an extra person to be your fursuit handler would be a good idea. Now, just in case you don't know what a fursuit handler is, the fursuit handler is, well, the person that is with the other person that is wearing a fursuit, and this is essentially working as their extra pair of eyes and ears. Because when you're wearing a fursuit or even just the head of a fursuit as a partial, it can be a bit difficult to see as well as hear what others are trying to say to you. So having that extra handler be your extra pair of eyes and ears is always a good idea. If this isn't possible, or your fursuit is designed in a way where it doesn't really restrict your sight or hearing that much, then, obviously just go ahead and when you have any kind of questions, either ask other attenders or ask a con staff member, which will be willing to help you out. It can be a little bit it can make you a bit nervous at times, but don't worry, they're just like you. They're there for the same enjoyment, and they also at one point had visited the furry convention for the first time and had to ask some directions. So don't worry, just relax, go ahead, ask a few questions, and have your fun. Alright, this is going to be about it for the video. I hope you enjoyed it and I hope it was helpful. And I'll see you next time with a different video. Goodbye.